I've spent in writing expenses in the last 5 years. What? Oh, right, and probably more because I'm still calculating my receipts. So if I find more, I'll get you the full scoop on that as soon as I can. Now you may be thinking, on what? Writing is free. Pen to paper or keyboard to white digital page. Stick around to the end to see what I spent it on and what my plans are for the future of my writing expenses.
Your knowledge, mentality, and hard work make up the journey all writers go through before they're labeled a natural. I'm Pika Lee, and I make videos that help build the foundation of writing that is you. So let's focus on you.
Before we dive in, if you don't know me, I'm Pika Lee, and I welcome you to my channel all about how to create the perfect foundation out of the right mindset, your hard work, and of course, the knowledge that I give you. So hit that like button, subscribe, and get settled in so we can talk about my bad financial decisions. Just kidding, this isn't that kind of video. And if you think I made bad choices after this breakdown, well, drop me a comment below. So you want to know how much I spent. Let's break it down into categories you're most likely to spend on. Conferences, software, courses or education, coverage, and most importantly, competitions. So let's start on something we might forget as new writers to look into: conferences. Film festivals host smaller conferences or just writing talks, which I definitely recommend, but festivals are also hosting competitions, which I'm going to talk about a little later, so stay to the end. You'll be shocked at how much I spent on competitions alone. So here's what I ended up spending on the ones that I did end up going to. Miami Media and Film Market in 2015 and 2016, and it was located at the Biltmore Hotel in South Florida. This was free. So why do I mention it when I'm talking about money? Well, in case you want to know the free events too, because they may not have cost me up front, but they did cost me gas, time, and lunch for the most part. The Story Expo had a ton of panelists. It was strictly for writing, and it was really great content about lots of things such as laws and copyright and how to build the right sort of story. Now, Story Expo in LA in 2016 at that time was $50 a ticket. It was only in its second year. It was my first time going to California also. So in 2016, I spent around maybe $500 for round trip tickets, $200 splitting the hotel with my boyfriend and my best friend, and then add at least $200 more for rental car, possibly some food in there, maybe a little bit more on that. At that time in 2018, Story Expo was priced at about $199, but I caught it in a discount at $99, so it was pretty good. And I did, of course, have to pay for airfare, probably another $300, but I did have a place to stay in New Jersey, so I wasn't staying in the same state because I had friends that lived outside of it, and I stayed there just to save cost. So in total, I probably spent about $700 when I did my New York trip or / New Jersey trip. So yes, LA conference was technically my biggest expense from conferences because I stayed at the hotel and I had to fly all the way across from the East Coast to the West Coast. I definitely highly recommend you checking out anything local to you, any sort of film festival or traveling to it. And of course, I went to another conference online, and this was the Screencraft Writers Conference in 2020. I spent $10 because it was pay what you can since we were in the middle of a pandemic, and it was a really great talk. I did enjoy it a lot, and I do believe they did have another one this year, but you'd have to look out for those online as they do just sort of post them when they're coming up on it. Next is software. I used to use Celtx, I graduated to Final Draft, and now I'm firmly just using Scrivener. I'll tell you why in a second. So how much for each? Celtx is free. However, there's limitations on the project, so you're restricted to about 2 currently, if that's correct. It used to be as many as you wanted, but now they've got tons of features in it, and so it is a little bit more subscription based, kind of like Writer Duet. And to be fair, I wasn't around when Celtx was limited. I was actually using it before that when I had 5 or more projects saved. I just love that with Celtx, whether I was using my browser or the Celtx app, which was free to download also, my scripts synced between the two. So when I moved over to Final Draft, it was really because of peer pressure, dare I say it. Everyone in the industry was just like, professionals use Final Draft. It's industry standard. If you don't have it, you're not a professional. And that's not true. If you have it, great. If you don't, for the first few years at least, or even many years, you're not going to need it. Unless you're spending quite a lot of time schmoozing with the big leagues and have tons of writing samples. So yeah, if you're not meeting industry professionals, you're likely not gonna need it quite yet. So what did I spend on Final Draft? $199. Yes, it's very pricey. It's a one-time fee, yes, but there is a fee when a new update comes out if it's a little bit of time in between them releasing the new one and you buying that last version. But seriously, I mean, there's no greater worth when it comes to acquiring industry-approved software or other equipment, because you know how it's going to perform. It's gonna be, and it's gonna interact with the industry in the right way. And that makes it so much worthwhile. So much so that the Final Cut project .fdx actually transfers over to different projects. You can use it in Celtx if I'm correct, you can use it in Writer Duet, and you can upload also the project file into, if I'm 100% correct, Scrivener. Yeah, I know, I'm getting to it. So Scrivener was $50. And to be fair, Scrivener is not something that's a huge deal in the film world. So I joined this NaNoWriMo group locally that was amazing. And I think I've said this too many times already in some of my videos, but you're gonna keep hearing it because it was a really great thing for me to do, joining a writers group. And because of this, I was told about this magical software called Scrivener that was only $49, and it was a literal digital binder that kept all of your notes and writing documents in one neat, intuitive little file. When I saw the layout, I was in love. I congratulated my second 50K win for NaNoWriMo in 2020 with buying the software. It only took me like 15 years to write 2 books, so yeah, I gave myself a nice little upgrade in my software, and I loved it. Celebrate the wins, people. Unlike Final Draft, there's not an annual update that's gotta be purchased, which I liked already about it, and it was also, Scrivener I mean, was also made for Mac users. So it was already perfect for my Mac laptop, and it really, again, had so much in it that did help me organize myself because I am a hardcore plotter. And so that is why I am in love with Scrivener. But let's move on to the next point. Oh wow, here we go. The good part. Hold on to your pants. Courses. Let's start with UCLA Extension because I know you're curious. With UCLA Extension program, I took my first screenwriting course with them in 2017. It was the spec drama writing course. It was writing the outline, and that course was actually the first course that I did a review on, and I put that video up on YouTube. It was my very first one that is still doing pretty well because there's not a whole lot out there about the Writers Extension program with UCLA. There's not really too much involved with signing up for their courses. It's not hard at all. So that cost in 2017 cost me roughly $700. If you're interested how this class went for me from my perspective, you can find that original video on my channel. It's gonna be linked above or in the notes below. More recently, I actually signed up in 2021 for a pre-production and production of film and television course, which was part of the certificate program. And this was also a consistent $700. So between 2017 and 2021, the prices have remained pretty nice and consistent, which is kind of refreshing and nice to hear. I don't know if that's going to benefit you, but it is something nice to know. In addition to these courses though, I have taken others outside of it. Sundance Collab offers courses that are pretty well on the budget for most writers. I did take one for about $130 that was discounted because I got a scholarship that I applied for in about 2020, and I do talk about that in another video also, so just so you know, you can always find those on my channel if you're interested. This course was a horror slash psychological horror screenwriting feature writing course. It was just doing the outline and development, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Then I took a chance again on Sundance Collab for $250 course outlining the original pilot. So again, most courses you're gonna take for writing will be the outlining portion, because when you go professionally into it, you want development to be done. You want to have that done before you start your writing, and that's why most courses start with this. It's just pretty normal and pretty standard. Somewhere in between these, I've taken a digital screenwriting course for about $20. They're emailed to you about 7 days, and it's pretty much a develop your horror concept on your own, so I did take that in 2020 also. I took another Screenwriting 101 basic course in Miami-Dade College for about $400, and that was a pretty interesting course that was available locally to me. Now, since I did get my degree in video production, I did take one screenwriting course that was a part of my associate degree. Let's say I paid another $500 for that. It's a very basic screenwriting class, but education has been by far the most important and costly part of my writing investment. And to be honest, I'm not going to tout that you don't need it. It was highly necessary in my growth in a major way. So there is nothing more important than knowing you have a ton of other strangers actually competing with you, but in a sort of different way, and wanting to learn to kick the crap out of their ideas to make it better. It just helps in the development process, which is the most crucial step of screenwriting or writing a story in general. But seriously, let's stop seeing any other classmate as competition. If we were all better writers, there'd be room for us all. Solid original stories to pick from all over the place. Wouldn't that be nice? But you know what? That's why I value coverage. I haven't spent too much on this particular area, and yes, this is another area that I did spend on, because I spent the money learning to see what was wrong before I sent it off. Most recently, I've actually tried WeScreenplay, which I've done a video for, and another update on their pricing because it has changed, so just be aware of that. But it was $60 when I sent in my original pilot. The other tutorial that I had was still very relevant about how it interacts with Coverfly, but there's a lot more in the breakdown of how they price things now, so that's the only reason why I did that update. Now, I also add coverage when I submit to different competitions, and that just depends on if it's actually available. So I, in total, spent about $80. Just remember to check that the competition you're applying for, if it's got that additional offer of, $35 to add in coverage, it's nice to add on. It's sometimes a little cheaper than actually just going and getting a $60 coverage done, and I tend to just use it for any sort of notes. And while they're sort of judging, I might as well throw it in there, which brings me to the thing you've been waiting for, competitions. I've entered around, under 10 screenwriting competitions in my lifetime. Here's what I've spent. Now keep in mind, I've spent this on Screencraft, WeScreenplay, Script Pipeline, Coverfly, competitions. These are my 4 go-to competition websites, and I'm not quite sure of each individual competition that I entered, but most of the time it's between sort of the new idea from Script Pipeline and genre-based ones with Screencraft. So I can maybe check into that and maybe do an update to that another time, but those are my personal go-to websites, so make a note of them if you're interested in them. So yes, I have actually entered personally into their competitions, so that is what I'm going to personally base all of my feedback on. And let's not get into bragging about placement. So far, I've spent about $250. Shocking, right? In a how have you not spent more kind of way, right? But this is because you'll hear me say, I do not spend money on competitions often. I use them as a benchmark. The purpose of the competitions are to find the best of the best. And if your writing is mediocre and your stories are slightly mediocre, which most of us are because we haven't found our voice yet, you'll rarely win these. And I don't want them to drop your morale like they have mine. Looking back, I just wasn't ready to be working writer because these competitions are looking for writers who are ready to be working. Working means not just writing your own scripts, writing assignments. And that means you'd be writing other people's concepts. That's the goal when you do become an actual professional writer. But don't leave just yet. I hope I didn't scare you off because we need to talk about my future of spending. In total, I've spent nearly $4K over some time now, and these are the investments in myself and in my writing, and I'm proud of them. If I counted my film gear also, by the way, which I use to film my own short films and videos, that would be very interesting to see. So yeah, I would probably cringe at the price. It's very expensive to own your own equipment and gear. And I've owned like 4 cameras since graduating college. Ugh. It's crazy. But maybe that's for a next video. So what's my future in spending on writing development? Competitions, still low. I don't want to spend on this unless I have a solid and actually unique concept. I think that they're only worth it if you've got a very unique concept that you can't actually push to anybody yourself. Something that might be a lot more high concept. Those are the sort of things that I feel might be pretty, I guess, valuable when entering a competition. Now, schooling, I can expect to spend there the most still. It's still gonna be my highest one because that's gonna include workshops, retreats, conferences, and I mean, I know I put conferences in a separate category, but some of that is education. So you do have to give yourself a little bit of leeway with conferences because they go a long way. And also they do help with networking, so hot tip there. So yes, I do expect conferences and education to grow. Now coverage, I am also planning to utilize a lot more. Mostly to benchmark myself and look for some useful notes that I can't quite catch myself. And then there's software. I don't see a need to buy more unless, I don't know, I'm using a subscription of some sort like Pro Writing Aid or Grammarly, which I actually do pay. And of course there's always going to be miscellaneous items like pens and pencils and notebooks, which I actually still do use because I just like the feel of actually writing something down physically. So I actually always buy a few certain other items such as my goal planner, which does help me with writing, and I actually physically like to write into that. And also under my miscellaneous, I do always get Rachel Bateman's NaNoWriMo goodie box. So that's actually something that I do spend a little extra every year on, and that helps me with both the novel writing and screenwriting. So, plus of course, you're gonna have apps that you use, Pomodoro apps or any other writing-based apps or note-taking apps that just sort of organize your thoughts. Those are things that I actually do use. Most of them are free, not all of them. Well, that's all I've got for you today, scribes. So like if you like cake, subscribe if you eat ice cream while you write. And see you creative beings next time.